This video is intended to walk you through what are your options when you want to cascade your OKRs at some degree of scale. I'm going to be going through this relatively slowly because I want to make sure that I get the concepts across. So the idea is pretty straightforward. Do you do a direct cascade or are you dealing with a unique strategy? In other words, with the business unit you're dealing with, can we just take the parent strategy and just work it down? Or does this area have a unique strategy for itself? So the test, I think, is this. Is there a significant difference and a unique challenge within the business unit that you're dealing with different than the parent? For example, if you have significantly different customers or customer segments, if you have a significantly different delivery mechanism, for example, through partners or co-partners, or significantly different resource requirements. Your workers are subcontracted or not, resource like cash flow constraints and so on. So if you don't have a significant challenge, then you might be able to take the parent strategy map and just adapt it by having a different weighting, i.e. a different set of priorities, or different key results, or even just different targets, or any combination of those things. So as much as possible, do try to use that parent strategy because it just makes it easier to understand what this business unit is about. So if you make the decision that is a direct cascade, I can take the corporate level strategy map, objectives, weightings, and move those down. Here's what the steps would look like. So remember, we're dealing with that sort of level 1 parent strategy map, objectives, and so on. And the area that we're about to cascade down to is going to have some work that's above the radar. And a lot of the work they do is below the radar and may link up linearly to what's in L2, or maybe what I'm going to call an orphan. And of course, that structure continues, but for now, we're just worried about L2 for the sake of argument. Now, remember, at that parent level, we've done the strategy map and objectives. We've also done the ontology, right? We've listed the objectives on the left, the departments across the top, and scored their impact. So if we take any one of these areas, for example, the sales department, remember to manage up, we've said pick 3 objectives, right? When we did the ontology, we said find 3 objectives that cover off the black squares and the 5s. And those become your above the radar metrics. Those are 3. But what we're now doing is a cascade. So we're going to take that same ontology and now ask you for 10 objectives to let you manage down, because now we also want to include that trapezoid. Again, as a reminder, that trapezoid represents the things that you need to manage inside your area that are below the radar, that senior leadership does not need to know about in order for them to do their job. So what we would do in a direct cascade is we now take that same ontology and we're looking for those 10 objectives. So working with your team in about a 90-minute web session, we would identify what are the 10 objectives for your area. Remember, we're using the same corporate strategy, the same corporate weighting, just what are my objectives? And then, of course, we're going to move on to say for each of those, what are the 1, 2, or 3 key results that would indicate we're making progress? And the associated projects. So I've both run the business and changed the business. That activity, again, takes, I'm going to say, 90 minutes or so. Eventually, we're going to assign who your point person is for that. Think of it in the RACI model as the A. Who's accountable for making sure it happens. And then progressing from there, we may even want to go, what are the associated teams? And again, I'm going to use a RACI model to say, what team is accountable for making this objective happen? Who's responsible for helping, contribute to the activities? Who needs to be consulted and who needs to get informed? So this structure is through sessions 1 and 2, and this allows you by the end of effectively the first day's work, have clarity about what the objectives are for your department. Day 2 is going to take that work and effectively take it the next level down. If you think about it, these first few columns are the dashboard you'd have for the entire department or team, right? What I'm going to call the level 2 dashboard. by harvesting from who the point person is, you can begin building personal OKRs. And of course, the RACI model at the team level helps you figure out what the team OKRs are. In other words, this is doing the L2 dashboard, and this is beginning the L3, if you think of it that way. What are the teams inside your department that work towards contributing to your overall success? So those workshops, basically, there are 4 90-minute sessions, building the team objectives, building their KRs, figuring out the point person, supporting teams. And then sessions 3 and 4, writing the OKRs, doing it as homework, and then the show and tell session where we align them across the team. So that's how we do a direct cascade. If, on the other hand, you need to do a strategic cascade, in other words, for your team, it's got a different strategy. It's sort of a repeat of what we did at the top level. In other words, what we need to do is, step 1, draw the strategy map for your department and set up their priorities, their weightings. Step 2, go ahead and do the ontology. And then step 3, go through writing up the OKRs. So this becomes a repeat of what we did at the corporate level down at the next level down, because you're strategically unique from the corporate entity. So what that looks like is 6 sessions where we do the strategy map, weightings, team ontology, write the objectives and definitions, write the key results, and then do the alignment exercise. So that takes you through quickly what your 2 alternatives are, right? The direct cascade, the strategic cascade, and what that work looks like. Hopefully that gives you all the information you need to make a choice about how you proceed.